Imagine betting your entire life savings, every last penny you've scraped together over 5 long years, on a single, wild gamble. That was Marcus Chen's reality when his shuttle touched down at Proxima Station. He glanced at his credit chip for what felt like the 100th time. 2,000 credits. That was it. 5 years of double shifts on dangerous salvage crews, fixing other people's junk, all boiled down to that tiny number. While other humans landed fancy jobs with the Galactic Council, Marcus was a salvager, and not a very successful one at that. He bought broken-down ships and busted mining gear, anything he could afford, and tried to flip it for a small profit. It was honest work, but today, he was done just getting by. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken for a dream? Let me know in the comments, because Marcus was about to take his. Today was the day for his big plan. The Proxima Station liquidation auction was rumored to be the sale of the century. 50 years ago, the powerful Vin Empire had collapsed, leaving behind a ghost fleet of ships, stations, and warehouses packed with advanced tech. Most of the good stuff had been snatched up by major corporations, but there were always forgotten treasures, lost lots tucked away in dusty corners of the galaxy. Marcus had heard about this auction 3 months back and had poured every spare credit into a one-way ticket. This was his chance to finally buy something that mattered, something that could change his entire life. He walked through the station's massive commercial district, a place built by the 8-legged Velkari, and felt completely out of his depth. The hallways were wide enough to fit creatures 3 times his size. Holographic ads for fancy restaurants and trading firms floated in the air, a constant reminder of a world he couldn't afford. Marcus was just one human in a sea of aliens. Tall, blue-skinned throws in crisp military uniforms, small, furry pickets chattering away in packs. A massive Velkari merchant drifted past without even a glance. In the 40 years since first contact, humans were still seen as the new kids on the block, the junior species. Marcus had been called far worse. He finally found the auction house in Bay 47, but the entrance was a tiny, unimpressive door next to a single, bored-looking Velkari guard. "Here for the auction?" Marcus asked. The guard gestured a leg toward a nearby console. "Scan your credentials. Deposit is required." Marcus pressed his thumb to the scanner, and his balance flashed on the screen. 2,000 credits. The console demanded a 500 credit deposit. His stomach twisted into a knot as he confirmed the payment, watching his life savings shrink to just 1,500. He stepped inside, expecting a chaotic room filled with hundreds of bidders, corporate salvagers, and rich alien merchants. Instead, the auction house was practically empty. He just stood there, stunned. There were 3 Velkari auctioneers setting up, a human couple flipping through a catalog, and 2 picket traders arguing in a corner. That was it. "Where is everyone?" Marcus whispered to the closest auctioneer. The Velkari's many eyes blinked, focusing on him. "You are here for the Vin lots, yes?" The auctioneer's translator droned. "Most bidders stay away. Vin technology has a bad reputation. Cursed, some call it." He explained that the Empire's collapse was so violent, many believe their creations carry bad luck. Marcus scoffed. "That's just a silly superstition." The Velkari turned back to his console. "Perhaps, but superstition keeps the prices down. Good for you, human." The auction began 30 minutes later. The human couple got up and left after 10 minutes. The pickets bought a small crate of spare parts for 50 credits and then scurried off. Within an hour, Marcus was the only person left in the audience. To his credit, the lead auctioneer carried on as if he were speaking to a full house. "Lot 234, a Vin medical scanner, condition unknown. Opening at 100 credits." The room was silent. "Lot withdrawn. Next item. Lot 235. 1 sealed cargo container. Contents unknown. Opening at 50 credits." Silence again. "Lot withdrawn." Marcus was actually starting to feel embarrassed for them, but he held his ground. He was here for one specific item. "Lot 847, the auctioneer finally announced. An image of a magnificent ship flashed onto the main screen, and Marcus sat bolt upright. "Vin Imperial Courier. Designation, Cinder Fate. Length, 300 meters. Military-grade vessel. Power core is functional, but navigation systems are offline. Ownership reverted to the station after 47 years of unpaid storage fees. The ship on the screen was a work of art. Its sleek, dark metal hull had elegant curves that made human ships look like flying bricks. You could see weapon ports lining its sides and powerful engines that screamed speed. This wasn't a freighter. It was a warship. "Opening bid," the auctioneer said. 2,000 credits. Marcus's hand shot into the air, paddle held high. The auctioneer looked at him, then scanned the empty room. 2,000 going once, going twice. He paused. Sold, to bidder 47. Congratulations, human. Marcus felt his heart stop. He had just bought a 300-meter warship for the price of a used car. A ship like that should have been worth millions, maybe tens of millions. The scrap metal alone was worth more. After the auction, he went up to the auctioneers. Why was it so cheap? The lead Valkyrie wiggled several of its legs, a gesture of uncertainty. Like I said, human. Cursed. The Cinder Fate was found drifting in deep space 15 years ago. No crew, no bodies, not a single sign of a fight. Everything inside was in perfect order, as if the crew just vanished. We've tried to sell it dozens of times. Nobody wants it. What happened to the crew? Marcus asked. No one knows. The Vin Empire fell into chaos and civil war. Records were lost, and countless questions were never answered. The Valkyrie handed Marcus a data chip. Here are the docking coordinates and your access codes. The ship is all yours now, the auctioneer said, his tone shifting. My advice? Sell it for parts and do it quickly. Don't keep it. Why not? The auctioneer's eyes all focused on Marcus with what seemed like genuine concern. Because 3 other buyers have tried. 2 of them had fatal accidents. The third one simply disappeared. Maybe it's all a coincidence. Maybe not. Just be careful, human. Marcus took the chip. He wasn't scared. He was a salvager. He'd spent 5 years crawling around alien tech, from Thro's mining rigs to Valkyrie breeding stations. He knew how to handle himself. And besides, what other choice did he have? That ship was his entire future. The coordinates led him to an old, forgotten military section of the station. The corridors were dark and dusty, and his footsteps echoed loudly on the metal floors. He passed row after row of sealed doors and abandoned offices until he finally reached docking clamp 7. And there it was. Through the thick observation window, Marcus saw the Cinder Fate for the first time. It was even bigger and more intimidating in person. Its dark hull seemed to drink the light around it as it floated silently in the void. It was terrifyingly beautiful, and it was his. He entered the access codes. With a sharp hiss of air, the airlock opened. As he stepped on board, the interior lights hummed to life, sensing his presence. Marcus walked down corridors lined with smooth, dark metal. Everything was spotless. No dust, no trash, nothing out of place. The air smelled clean, and a low hum from the emergency systems told him the ship still had power. He found the bridge. The command chairs were empty, and the control crystals cast a soft, ambient glow. He ran his hand over the captain's chair. The leather was perfect, without a single scuff. Where did you all go? He wondered aloud. He kept exploring. Crew quarters with neatly made beds, a galley with food processors that looked ready to cook a meal, a med bay with every instrument perfectly arranged. It was like the crew had just stepped out for a coffee break and was about to return any second. But they hadn't, not for 50 years. The last room he checked was the captain's quarters. He found a desk with a few data pads, some personal photos of Vin families, and a shelf of trinkets from a dozen different worlds. And then he saw it. A note, written in Galactic Standard. If you are reading this, you have ignored every warning. Turn back now. What lies below should remain sealed. Below? Marcus pulled up the ship's schematics on a console. He scanned past the engineering deck, and then he saw it. A section marked in bright red. A vault. It was sealed with security protocols light years beyond anything else on the ship. He headed down. The vault door was massive, 3 meters of solid metal covered in warning signs in 12 different languages. Marcus recognized most of them. Danger. Quarantine active. Do not open. His heart was hammering against his ribs. Every survival instinct he had was screaming at him to get off this ship, sell it for scrap, and never look back. But he had spent his entire life playing it safe, and all it had gotten him was a lonely existence with 2,000 credits. Not anymore. He looked closer at the lock. It was military-grade encryption, but it was 50 years old. And Marcus knew how to break things. A slow smile spread across his face. "All right," he said to the empty room. "Let's see what's so dangerous." It took Marcus 3 long days. He barely slept, living off old ration bars and recycled water from the ship's stores. The lock was a nightmare, layered with traps and false signals, but the Vin had never expected a stubborn salvager to spend 3 days straight working on it. They were wrong. On the 3rd day, he heard a deep, satisfying thunk as the final lock gave way. With a loud hiss of air, the giant door split down the middle and slid open. A wave of ice-cold air washed over him, making him shiver. He cautiously stepped inside. The vault was huge, at least 20 meters across, and it was filled from wall to wall with stasis pods. 73 of them, all arranged in perfect, silent rows. Each pod was 2 meters long and made of a clear material, so he could see the shapes inside. A soft blue light glowed from the edges of each one, a sign that they were still active, still running after all these years. Marcus took a deep breath and walked toward the nearest pod. What if everything you learned in history class was a lie? For Marcus, a salvager who was flat broke, buying a forgotten piece of junk was supposed to be a small win, but it ended up exposing the biggest cover-up in galactic history. When he pried open a hidden vault on his new ship, his blood ran cold. Inside wasn't cargo. It was a person, a woman, maybe 30 years old, with dark skin and short black hair, sleeping in a stasis pod. She was wearing a uniform he'd never seen before, blue and white, with a patch on the shoulder that read USS Prometheus Xenobiology. He scrambled to the next pod. Another person. This time, a man in the same uniform, USS Prometheus Engineering. He checked pod after pod, his heart pounding. They were all humans, all wearing the same uniform from the legendary USS Prometheus, Earth's first deep space colony ship, launched way back in 2187 with 300 colonists. The story was a tragedy every school kid knew by heart. The Prometheus was supposed to build humanity's first home beyond our solar system, but it vanished without a trace in the Kepler expanse. No Mayday call, no debris field, nothing. After searching for 2 long years, Earth declared all hands lost. The official story was a navigation error. They probably hit an asteroid or had a catastrophic engine failure, but that was almost 200 years ago. Marcus stumbled back, counting the pods again. 73 humans, all perfectly preserved in stasis, all still alive. What in the world were they doing on a Vin warship? He bolted back to the bridge, his hands shaking as he pulled up the ship's database. He had to find translator protocols, medical systems, and revival procedures. If he messed this up, he wouldn't just be breaking a machine. He could end a life. It took him 2 grueling hours to get a handle on the Vin stasis system. It wasn't exactly like human tech, but the core principles were there. Slow the body, drop the temperature, and keep the brain humming on low power. He knew the revival had to be slow and steady. Rushing it could cause permanent brain damage. He decided to start with the woman from the first pod he saw. Her uniform badge read Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, xenobiologist. If you have to wake someone up to a crazy new reality, he figured, a scientist was probably the best bet. He hoped she could handle the shock. He started the revival sequence, and the pod's cool blue light slowly warmed to a gentle green. Marcus watched, holding his breath, as the woman's chest began to rise and fall a little faster. Her fingers twitched. Life was slowly returning to her face. 20 minutes later, the pod hissed open. Dr. Okonkwo's eyes fluttered open, and she let out a ragged cough, gasping for air. Marcus gently helped her sit up. "Easy now," he said softly. "Just take your time. You're safe." She stared at him, her eyes clouded with confusion. Who are you? Where's Captain Mills?" Her voice was raspy from centuries of disuse. "My name is Marcus. You're on my ship, the Cinder. I need you to just breathe and stay calm, because this is going to be a lot to take in." Over the next hour, Marcus laid it all out for her, finding the ship at a junk auction, discovering the hidden vault and the 73 stasis pods. And then came the hardest part, telling her the current year. Sarah's face went pea as a ghost. 200 years? That can't be right. We were only supposed to be in stasis for 6 months, just until we reached Kepler 442. Marcus shook his head gently. "You never made it. The Prometheus was declared lost with all hands. Everyone on Earth thought you were dead." Sarah wobbled to her feet. No, that's wrong. We were intercepted. I remember now." Her voice grew stronger as the memories flooded back. 3 days out, Vin warships dropped out of FTL and surrounded us. They forced us to power down. They boarded our ship. She clenched her fists. Captain Mills tried to talk to them, but they just stunned everyone. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in some kind of Vin medical bay. They were scanning me, taking samples. And then they put me right back into stasis. A sick feeling churned in Marcus's stomach. "They captured all of you?" "Yes," Sarah said, her eyes sweeping over the other pods. "Is this everyone?" Marcus told her there were only 73. Her face tightened with pain, which quickly hardened into fury. "They treated us like lab rats. The Vin wanted to pick apart our biology, our technology. They kept asking about our faster-than-light drive, our defenses, how our minds worked." She let out a bitter laugh. "But why? The Vin were supposed to be light years ahead of us." "Were they, Marcus?" she challenged. "Think about it. When did Earth officially make first contact with aliens?" He recited the date from his history lessons. 40 years ago, in 2345, alien ships showed up because our radio signals finally reached them." "Wrong," Sarah said flatly, walking toward the vault door. "They contacted Earth because they had no choice, because our technology was catching up to theirs way too fast. Back in 2187, we had real quantum fold drives, not the cheap knockoffs the rest of the galaxy uses. We had neural interfaces, medicine that could cure almost anything. Marcus, 200 years ago, humanity was on the verge of becoming more advanced than most of the species out here now." Marcus just stared at her, completely stunned. "That's impossible. We're a junior species. Everyone knows that." "Because that's the story they fed you," Sarah shot back, her eyes burning with intensity. "The Vin ambushed the Prometheus because we were a threat. They dissected our technology, reverse-engineered every last piece of it, and then they made damn sure Earth never got that powerful again." "How do you think that happened?" I have no idea." "Neither do I," she admitted. "Not yet. But I'm going to find out." Sarah turned back to the pods. "We need to wake the others, especially the engineers. See those 3 pods over there, set apart from the rest? Those are our quantum fold engineers. They practically invented our FTL drive. The Vin wanted their knowledge more than anything." Marcus helped Sarah wake the next person, and the one after that. One by one, the crew of the USS Prometheus woke up to a future they never made. Each one faced the same crushing shock, the same deep confusion, and then the same burning anger. The 10th person they revived was Commander James Park, the ship's security chief, a tall man with steel gray hair and a gaze that missed nothing. As Sarah explained their 200-year nightmare, he listened in stony silence. 2 centuries, he finally said, and Earth thinks we're just a sad story in a history book. That's right, Marcus confirmed. Park then looked at Sarah. Did you tell him about our little parting gift? Marcus frowned. Parting gift? What are you talking about? Sarah and Park shared a look, a silent understanding passing between them. When the Vin were tearing apart our ship and our science, Sarah began, we knew we couldn't fight back, so we did the next best thing. What did you do? We sabotaged it, Park said with a grim smile. Every single piece of tech they stole from us, we corrupted. It wasn't obvious. The stuff would work for a while, but we embedded degradation protocols, quantum instability loops, neural feedback triggers. We designed every last circuit to fail, spectacularly, over time. The pieces clicked into place for Marcus. The Vin Empire. It collapsed 50 years ago. They called it the Great Civil War. Let me guess, Sarah, their ships started falling apart? Their computers went haywire? Their weapons started backfiring? Yeah, Marcus breathed. How did you know? Because we planned it, Park said, a dark satisfaction in his voice. The Vin built their empire on stolen human genius, and we laced that foundation with poison. Marcus sank into a nearby chair, his head spinning. This was bigger than a lost ship. The fall of an entire galactic empire wasn't a historical accident. It was revenge, a 200-year-long game played by captives who knew they'd never live to see the checkmate. There's more, Sarah added quietly. The Vin weren't working alone. Other species helped them. We overheard them, saw documents. At least 4 other major species were in on it, all of them dividing up the spoils from our ship. Which ones? We don't know all their names, but the proof is locked away in the Prometheus's secure database, if it even still exists. Sarah looked Marcus straight in the eye. Who runs the galaxy now? The Galactic Council, he answered. 12 major species. Humans were granted junior membership about 15 years ago. Park snorted. And let me guess. We're treated like the kids at the grown-up table? Restricted on what kind of tech we can develop? Marcus nodded slowly. They call them developmental guidelines. For our own protection. Sarah laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. It's for their protection, Marcus. They've been terrified of us since 2187. They took everything we had and put our entire species in a technological timeout. But if that's true, Marcus asked, why keep you alive all this time? Park answered that one. Because they needed us. Our technology is tied to our neurology, he explained. They could copy the hardware, but they couldn't replicate the way a human brain interfaces with quantum systems. They kept us on ice as a living instruction manual, just in case they needed to squeeze more information out of us. Then why were you abandoned on this ship? Marcus wondered. That's the million-credit question, Sarah said. We need to get into this ship's logs, find out who owned it last and why we ended up here. It took them the next 6 hours, but with Marcus translating the Vin data, they pieced together the story. The ship, the Cinder Fate, once belonged to a Vin research commander named Thekval. He was in charge of studying the Prometheus prisoners. When his own empire started crumbling around him, he realized the human sabotage was working. He tried to warn his superiors, but they wouldn't listen. And then, Thekval did something almost unheard of for a Vin. He felt guilty. He couldn't set the humans free. Too many powerful species wanted them to stay buried forever, but he could save the evidence. So he loaded the 73 survivors onto his personal ship, copied all his research files proving the conspiracy, and flew the ship to Proxima Station. He paid for long-term storage and then vanished. The storage fees ran out 47 years ago, but with the Vin Empire gone, nobody wanted to buy their old ships, so it just sat there, gathering dust in a forgotten docking bay, until it was finally put up for a no-show auction. Sarah looked at Marcus, a small, wry smile on her face. "You bought this ship, this key to everything, for 2,000 credits. And then she started to laugh. A real, deep belly laugh. Park cracked a smile, then joined her. Soon, all 10 of the revived humans were howling, the sound bouncing off the metal walls of the vault. "What's so funny?" Marcus asked, feeling completely lost. "You just bought the most dangerous cargo in the galaxy for the price of a beat-up shuttle," Sarah said, wiping tears from her eyes. "Do you have any idea what will happen when people find out who is on this ship?" Marcus's mind raced. 73 witnesses to a conspiracy 200 years in the making. Hard evidence of technology theft, proof that humanity had been intentionally held back. Data that could bring down governments and rewrite the entire political map of the galaxy. "Oh," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Oh no." Park clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Oh yes, Marcus. You just became the most important and the most hunted human alive." Miles away, on Proxima Station, automated scanners on the Cinder Fate suddenly lit up. Multiple human life signs. An impossibility. The information flagged red in security systems, and alerts started firing off. Across the galaxy, powerful figures who thought their darkest secrets were buried for good suddenly got the terrifying news that those secrets were starting to wake up. Standing on the bridge of his ship, Marcus watched the security alerts flood his screen. Red warnings blinked on every single display. Somebody was scanning his ship. A lot of somebodies. "We've got a problem," he said. Commander Park peered over his shoulder. "How bad?" 15 different sources are pinging us. They know we're awake. They know there are humans on board." Marcus jabbed a finger at one of the alerts. "This one is from station security. This one's a Throws diplomatic ship. And that one?" He trailed off. "That one is using military-grade sensors. Somebody's getting ready to make a move." Sarah walked onto the bridge, having just brought another 20 members of the Prometheus crew out of stasis. "How much time do we have?" she asked. "Hours, maybe," Marcus replied. "Once the station authorities figure this out, they'll try to board us. Or worse, someone else will get to us first." Park turned to Sarah, his face grim. "Get me the quantum engineers. Now." Sarah nodded and sprinted back toward the vault, her voice echoing as she shouted orders. More stasis pods hissed open. Marcus flipped open the ship's comms panel. "We need to call Earth. Let them know what we found." "No," Park snapped. "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because for the last 40 years, Earth's government has been in bed with the Galactic Council. They're part of the system now. The second we make an official call, the Council will know everything. They'll bury this story before it ever sees the light of day." "So what's the plan?" Marcus asked. Park gave him a grim smile. "We do what we should have done 200 years ago. We tell everybody. Every human. On every planet. All at the same time. We'll make a broadcast so loud, they'll have no way to hide it." Just then Sarah returned with 3 people in tow. 2 men and a woman, all looking a little groggy but sharp. "Marcus, meet Dr. James Chen, Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, and Dr. Yuki Tanaka, our quantum fold engineers." Marcus did a double take. "Wait, Dr. James Chen? Any relation?" James Chen, a man who looked to be in his 50s with hints of gray in his hair, gave Marcus a curious look. "Chen's a pretty common name, but you never know. Do you know your family history? My great-great-great-grandmother's name was Chen Li. She was born in 2156. James's eyes went wide. "Chen Li was my sister. That would make you my great-great-great-nephew." The bridge started to spin. Marcus had just found his ancestor, a man who was supposed to have been dead for 2 centuries. "Small galaxy," Park muttered. "All right, can you 3 get this ship's quantum drive online?" Lisa Rodriguez was already hunched over the engineering console. "This is Vin technology, all right," she said. "But it's based on our stolen schematics. And they botched it. They never grasped the core principles." She typed furiously. They thought quantum folding was about speed. It's not. It's about probability. Could you put that in layman's terms for me? Marcus asked. Yuki Tanaka stepped in. A normal faster-than-light drive just moves you from point A to point B really fast. Quantum folding is totally different. It places the ship into a state of quantum uncertainty. For a moment, you exist in every possible location at once until you choose one and collapse the wave function. To anyone watching, you just seem to teleport randomly, which makes you impossible to track, Park added. Or to shoot at. Exactly, James said. The Vin stole the machine, but they never figured out the math behind it. They couldn't get it to work right. Their version is unstable. I'd say it's probably dangerous. How dangerous? Marcus pressed. Tear the ship to pieces dangerous, James said with a grin. But we designed the original. We can fix it. Give us 6 hours. You have 3, Park shot back, gesturing to the flashing security alerts. After that, we're going to have visitors. The engineers bolted for the engine room. Sarah started organizing the rest of the revived crew, and Marcus watched from the bridge as his ship buzzed with activity. These people, colonists from 2 centuries ago, moved with a purpose, working together as if no time had passed at all. They knew this ship, even in its modified state, better than he ever could. Suddenly, Marcus felt completely useless. Sure, it was his ship, but he was just a salvage guy. These were highly trained colonists, brilliant scientists, and seasoned military officers. They were pros. Park must have seen the look on his face. Cut that out. Cut what out? Feeling sorry for yourself, Marcus? You're the one who bought this rust bucket when no one else would. You're the one who opened that vault instead of running for the hills. You brought us back. None of this would be happening without you. Park pointed to the screen. Now we just need you to do one more thing. What's that? Keep us alive for the next 3 hours while those engineers perform a miracle. Right on cue, the ship's sensors screamed. A vessel was closing in, small, fast, and running silent with no identification. Here we go, Park muttered. Marcus keyed the ship's comms. Unidentified vessel. This is the Cinder fate. State your purpose. The only response was silence as the ship crept closer. They're not here to chat, Park said grimly. He turned to the crew. Battle stations. Somebody get me weapons control. 2 of the Prometheus crew scrambled to the weapons console. Sir, the systems are online, but we don't know these VIN interfaces. Marcus shoved past them. I do. I've been fixing up alien ships for 5 years. His fingers flew across the strange controls. VIN weapon systems use a crystalline targeting matrix. See these nodes? They link to the external sensors. And this, he said, activating a new display, shows our weapon status. We've got energy cannons. No missiles, but the cannons are hot. The enemy ship opened fire, and bolts of energy slammed against the Cinder Fate's shields. Alarms shrieked through the bridge. Shields at 80%, Marcus yelled. They're not trying to cripple us. They're going for the kill. Return fire, Park commanded. Marcus had never actually fired a ship's weapons before. He'd repaired them, run diagnostics on them, but never used them in a real fight. His hands trembled as he lined up the shot on the attacking ship. He mashed the firing control. The Cinder Fate's cannons roared to life, sending beams of blue energy screaming across the void. They struck the attacker's engines dead on. The smaller ship tumbled out of control and limped away, trailing smoke and plasma. Nice shot, Park said, clapping him on the back. I was aiming for their weapons, Marcus confessed, his heart still pounding. Even better. You put the fear in them. Park was already back at the sensor display, but they're calling for help. We're about to have a lot more company. Just then, Sarah's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. Commander, we've cracked the ship's database. You need to see this. Park and Marcus raced to the main computer core, where Sarah had a portable display jacked into the VIN systems. Data was scrolling across the screen in a dozen different languages. This ship belonged to a research commander named Thikval, Sarah said. The guy kept a record of everything, including the whole conspiracy. Names, species, and governments flashed on the screen. 4 of the biggest galactic powers had worked together to capture the Prometheus, the Vin Empire, the Thros Federation, the Velkari Trade Collective, and the Kix Sovereignty. They had a deal to split all the stolen technology. Each one took different pieces. The Vin took the quantum fold drive and our medical tech. The Thros got the weapon systems and tactical computers. The Velkari took our computing and AI research. And the Kix got all of our biological and agricultural breakthroughs. They built their entire modern civilizations on the back of stolen human genius, Sarah said, her voice low and furious. Every major advancement they've had in the last 200 years came from what they stole from us. And then, 40 years ago, they made contact with Earth, Park added, and made damn sure to classify humanity as a junior species. They slapped restrictions on what kind of tech Earth was allowed to develop. All of it was to make sure we'd never catch up, never realize what had been taken from us. A cold fury started to build in Marcus's chest. My whole life, I was told that humans were lucky to even be in the galactic community, that we were primitive and needed their guidance. He stared at the proof on the screen. It was all a lie. Yes, Sarah said. And now we can prove it. Another alarm blared. 3 more ships approaching. These ones were bigger, military grade. Time's up, Park announced. We need those engines now. Marcus sprinted to engineering. The 3 quantum engineers were drenched in sweat, frantically working on the ship's enormous fold drive. The engine core was pulsing with an eerie light, with colors that seemed to shimmer and bend reality. Please tell me that thing works, Marcus pleaded. It works, Lisa confirmed, not looking up from her console. But we've only run it in simulations. This is going to be its first real power-up in 200 years. Is it going to blow us up? James let out a sharp laugh. Probably not. I'm 60% sure. That is not comforting. It's the best I've got. Yuki finished typing a final string of calculations into the system. Quantum fold drive is ready. Tell the commander we can jump on his command. Marcus scrambled back to the bridge. Engines are ready. Park was already at the helm. Everybody hold on to something. This is going to get interesting. As he spoke, the military vessels opened fire, and the space around the Cinder fate erupted in a storm of energy and steel. The shield screamed, flashing a brilliant, angry blue. Shields are at 40%, Marcus yelled. Jumping now, Park called out, slamming his hand on the panel that activated the quantum fold drive. The universe dissolved into madness. Marcus felt his body being pulled in a dozen different directions at once. The bridge of the ship warped, stretching like taffy before snapping back. Through the main view screen, he saw the fabric of space itself twisting into impossible shapes. Their ship, the Cinder Fate, appeared in what felt like 100 places all at once, ghostly afterimages flickering in and out of existence. The enemy vessel fired wildly, its lasers slicing through empty space where they used to be. Their targeting computers were completely fried, unable to lock onto a ship that was both everywhere and nowhere. Just as quickly, reality snapped back into focus. The ship was solid again, but now they were a staggering 10,000 kilometers from where they'd been just a second ago. Proxima Station was nothing more than a tiny speck of light in their rear view. It worked! Marcus screamed, a huge grin spreading across his face. A wave of cheers erupted from the engineering team over the comms. James's voice crackled with excitement. The quantum fold was a success. The drive is stable. We can do it again anytime you need. Park let a small, tight smile grace his lips. Good, he said, his voice firm. Because our next stop is Earth, and we're going to tell every single soul what really happened. Just then, Sarah stepped onto the bridge. The broadcast is ready to go, she announced. We've got all the proof. Names, dates, specs on the stolen tech, everything. The second we hit send, the entire galaxy will finally know the truth. Marcus looked at Park. The Council will do everything they can to stop us. Park's eyes hardened. Let them try, he said. They've kept us silent for 200 years. Not anymore. And with that, the Cinder fate turned and set a course for home. Back on Proxima Station, alarms blared to life. Frantic, encrypted messages shot out toward the Council's headquarters. The long-lost crew of the USS Prometheus, thought to be ghosts for 2 centuries, were awake. And they were coming back. In his private quarters, a Thros Admiral's datapad pinged with a Priority 1 alert. He read the message twice, his mind refusing to accept it. Then he keyed in a code on his secure communicator. "The Prometheus crew. They're alive," he growled into the device. "Activate every contingency protocol we have. They cannot be allowed to reach Earth." All across the galaxy, hidden forces began to stir. Warships quietly changed their headings. Assassins were given new contracts. Governments convened secret emergency meetings. The conspiracy that had held for 200 years was on the verge of collapsing, and the powerful figures who had built their empires on stolen human technology would do absolutely anything to keep their secrets buried. But Marcus Chen, a simple salvage dealer who'd bought an old freighter for 2,000 credits, was about to give them the fight of their lives. The Cinder fate tore through quantum space 3 more times before Park felt confident they had shaken any pursuit. Each jump felt like reality was being shredded and then stitched back together. Marcus's stomach was still doing flips from the first one. "How far are we from Earth?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Sarah glanced at the navigation panel. 17 light-years. With our standard FTL drive, that's a 4-day trip. With the quantum fold, we could be there in 6 hours. "Then what are we waiting for?" Marcus asked. Park turned away from the pilot's chair to face him. "Because," he said calmly, "we have to be smart. The second we pop into Earth's orbit, every military fleet in this sector is going to be on top of us. We will get exactly 1 shot to get our message out. After that, this becomes a game of survival." The weight of it all hit Marcus. They were carrying a data file that could shatter galactic alliances. Of course, people would kill to stop them. They were already trying. "So what's the plan?" "We get ready," Park replied. "Sarah, what's the head count on our revived crew?" 43 out of 73 are up and about. The others need more time. There are some medical complications from being in stasis for 2 centuries. 43 will have to be enough, Park decided. "Get them organized. I want damage control teams, extra engineering support, and anyone with combat experience geared up for a potential boarding party." "You really think they'll try to board us?" Marcus asked, stunned. "I think they'll try absolutely everything," Park said, pulling up a tactical map. "We have evidence that could bring down 4 of the biggest powers in the galaxy. Trust me, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at us." Over the next 3 hours, the Cinder fate was transformed. The resurrected Prometheus crew moved with quiet efficiency, turning the old freighter into a warship. They reinforced weak points in the hull, set up makeshift medical bays in the cargo holds, and armed themselves with weapons from a forgotten armory. Marcus pitched in wherever he could, showing them how the newer VIN systems worked and helping them bring shield generators back online that hadn't been powered on in decades. But mostly, he just watched in awe as these people, literal ghosts from 200 years in the past, seamlessly adapted to technology that should have been alien to them. They were incredible, every last one of them. Dr. James Chen, the Prometheus's chief engineer, found Marcus tinkering in the engine room. "We need to talk about that quantum drive." "Is something wrong with it?" Marcus asked, worried. "No, that's the thing. It works perfectly. A little too perfectly." James brought up a screen filled with diagnostic data. "The VIN modified our original designs, but they clearly didn't get the theory behind it. They slapped on a bunch of safety limiters because they were terrified of the power it could unleash. But those limiters also make the drive's behavior predictable." "Meaning?" Marcus asked. "Meaning," James said with a wild look in his eye, "if we take off the training wheels, we can do things the VIN never even dreamed of. We could fold space in ways that should be impossible." "Is that safe?" James just grinned. "Absolutely not, but it just might keep us alive. Marcus took a deep breath. Do it. But be ready to shut it down if things get weird. Things are already weird, son, James said with a chuckle. We're just about to make them interesting. Sarah's voice came over the intercom, calling a meeting in the ship's conference room. All 43 of the awakened crew members filed in. They looked like specters, Marcus thought, people out of time in their 200-year-old uniforms, their faces etched with exhaustion, but burning with determination. Park stood at the head of the table. Our destination is Earth, he began. When we arrive, we are going to broadcast everything we have on every channel we can access. Military frequencies, civilian news networks, even emergency distress signals. We will make this information impossible to ignore. What about the government on Earth? One of the crew asked. Will they even help us? That's the big unknown, Park admitted. Earth's government has been working with the Council for 40 years now. They might see us as a threat to the current galactic peace, or they might see us as proof that humanity has been cheated for centuries. We can't afford to take that chance. Sarah brought a holographic display to life in the center of the table. We've packaged the entire broadcast, she explained. It's got video testimony from all of us, the technical schematics of our stolen technology, the Thros's own research files, and most importantly, the names of every single person involved in this cover-up. Marcus stared at the scrolling list of names. It was endless. High-ranking government officials, decorated military commanders, CEOs of massive corporations, hundreds of individuals from 4 different species, all of them part of the lie. Once we release this, Sarah continued, her voice grim, there's no turning back. They will do anything to discredit us. They'll call us fakes. They'll say we're holograms or paid actors, another crewman added. Some people on Earth might even believe them. That's why we have to be flawless, Park said, his voice ringing with authority. Our evidence has to be ironclad. Our story has to be unshakable. And we have to survive long enough for the truth to actually sink in. A piercing alarm suddenly cut him off. Marcus bolted for the bridge. The long-range sensors were lit up, showing multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel just outside weapons range. 6 ships, he reported, his heart pounding. All of them are Thos military design. They found us, Marcus breathed. Park was right behind him. Battle stations. Engineering, I need full power to the shields, now. The Thros warships fanned out, forming a loose cage around the Cinder fate. But they didn't fire. They just sat there, waiting. What are they doing? Marcus asked. Sarah's hands flew over her console. They're jamming us! We can't send or receive any long-range signals, she confirmed. They're putting us in a box, Park realized instantly. They're going to hold us here until their reinforcements arrive. And then they'll crush us with sheer numbers. Can we make another jump? Marcus asked. James's voice crackled over the intercom. Negative. The quantum drive needs 30 minutes to cool down and recharge between folds. We pushed it way too hard getting away from the station. Marcus stared at the 6 enemy ships on the tactical display. 6 against 1, with more on the way. They were completely trapped. And then, a crazy idea sparked in his mind. Commander, he said, turning to Park. The Vin built this ship to be a courier, right? That's right, designed for speed and stealth. So, Marcus continued, it has to have other tricks up its sleeve, right? Countermeasures, decoys, something. A flicker of understanding lit up Park's eyes. You're right. Sarah, access the ship's defensive systems, Park ordered. Find me every single thing this old bird can do. Sarah's fingers danced across the console. Found something. The Cinder Fate has a holographic projection system. It can create false sensor readings. Make one ship look like an entire fleet. Perfect, Park said. He looked at Marcus. You know Vintech better than anyone. Can you run it? Marcus slid into the console chair. The interface was a mess of alien symbols, but the basic logic was similar to other systems he'd worked on. I think so. What do you need me to do? Make them think we brought friends to the party, Park said with a grim smile. Marcus got to work, activating the holographic projectors. On the enemy's sensor screens, the single blip of the Cinder fate suddenly split in two. Then those two became 4. 4 became 8, then 16, then 32. A fleet of ghost ships materialized in space, each one a perfect, shimmering copy of their vessel. The Throw's fleet faltered. Their tight formation broke as their commanders scrambled to figure out which target was the real Cinder fate. Now! Park roared. Jump! The drive's not ready? James yelled over the comms. Do it anyway! James swore fluently in 3 different languages, then forced the quantum drive to activate. The universe twisted apart again, but this time, it was different. It was wrong. Marcus felt the entire ship vibrating violently, as if it were about to be torn apart. The 32 ghost ships weren't just holograms anymore. The raw power of the premature quantum fold was making them partially real. The Cinder fate now existed in 32 possible locations, all at the same time. The Throw's ships finally opened fire, their weapons lashing out, but the energy bolts either passed through empty space or struck a ghost image that simply dissolved on impact. Then reality snapped back with a gut-wrenching lurch. The ship was one piece again. They had jumped, but it was clear that something fundamental had changed. What just happened? Marcus stammered. On the intercom, James's voice was filled with sheer, unadulterated awe. The holographic projectors. They must have interfered with the quantum field. We didn't just make fake pictures of the ship. We created actual quantum probability branches. For a few seconds, the ship was literally in all of those places at once. Is that bad? Marcus asked, feeling nauseous. It should have ripped us to shreds, but this VIN ship design, it's more resilient than we ever imagined. Marcus, you didn't just save us. You just accidentally invented a whole new type of quantum defense. Marcus didn't feel like a genius. He felt like he was going to be sick. Where are we? He managed to ask. Sarah checked the navigation screen. 3 light years from Earth. The Throws are scrambling to find us, but I'd guess we have about an hour, maybe less, before they pinpoint our location. That's it, Park decided. We're going now. Full burn to Earth. No more detours. The Cinder fate surged forward. On the main display, Marcus watched as Earth swelled from a distant marble into a vibrant world of blue and green. The birthplace of humanity, home to 12 billion souls who had no idea their entire history was a lie. Commander, I've got massive fleet movements, Sarah reported, her voice tight. Throws, Velkari, Kicks, even Council peacekeeping forces. They're all making a beeline for Earth. How many? 37 confirmed, with more popping in every minute. A cold knot formed in Marcus's stomach. They're going to start a war over this. Park's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. They already did. 200 years ago. We're just here to finish it. The moment the Cinder fate dropped into Earth's solar system, the comms exploded. It was a chaotic flood of requests from Earth's defense grid, Council diplomats, and every news network in the sector. They all wanted to know the same thing. Who are you, and what do you want? Park opened a system-wide channel. This is Commander James Park of the USS Prometheus. We are human citizens, and we are returning home after 200 years. We request immediate asylum and protection under Earth's government. The response was pure pandemonium. Some voices demanded they surrender and land at once. Others screamed threats, promising to blast them out of the sky if they came any closer. News channels went into a frenzy, broadcasting live shots of the strange ship that claimed to be a ghost from humanity's past. Suddenly, a new voice sliced through the noise, calm and full of authority. This is President Sarah Mitchell of Earth. Commander Park, if your claim is true, you will submit to our verification procedures immediately. Park glanced at Sarah and Marcus. This is it, he said. Once we send this, nothing will ever be the same. Then let's change things, Sarah said, her eyes blazing. Park initiated the broadcast sequence. In an instant, every channel lit up. Military frequencies, civilian networks, emergency alerts, even entertainment streams. The entire planet was hit with the same transmission at the same time. The faces of 43 crew members from the Prometheus appeared on screens across Earth and beyond. And one by one, they told their stories. They laid out their evidence. They named the guilty. And 12 billion human beings learned that their species had been betrayed, held back, and robbed of its destiny for 2 centuries by the very aliens they called allies. The Galactic Order, an institution that had seemed invincible for 200 years, began to splinter. High in orbit above Earth, 37 state-of-the-art warships were locked in a standoff with a single, battered Vin courier vessel. And on the bridge of that tiny ship, Marcus Chen stood with the ghosts of the past, watching as an entire planet woke up to the truth. "What happens now?" he whispered. Park offered a grim smile. "Now we find out if Earth is willing to fight for its own future." The message went out, and Marcus watched the world's reaction explode across the comms displays. Shock, rage, utter disbelief. Within minutes, protests were erupting in every major city on the planet. People were demanding answers from their leaders. They were demanding answers from the Galactic Council. The 37 warships hovering around Earth were frozen, unable to move. The whole galaxy was watching. Firing on the Cinder fate now would be a confession. President Mitchell's voice came through again. "Commander Park, I am dispatching a diplomatic shuttle to your position. Will you agree to meet with representatives from Earth?" "We will," Park confirmed. "But the meeting will happen here, on our ship. We are not leaving the Cinder fate." "Agreed. The shuttle will be there in 20 minutes. Marcus turned to Park. "Do you trust them?" "No," Park said without hesitation. "But we're out of choices. We need allies, and right now Earth is our only shot." Sarah was glued to the galactic comms. "The Council is in an emergency session. The Throws are denying everything. The Velkari are screaming that our evidence is fake, and the Kicks are completely silent." "What about the Vin?" Marcus asked. "Radio silence," she said. "Remember, the Vin Empire collapsed. It's just scattered colonies now. They don't have a central government left to defend or condemn what their ancestors did." Just then, Dr. James Chen walked onto the bridge, his expression grave. "I've been running diagnostics on the quantum drive. We've got a problem." "Another one?" Marcus sighed. "That last jump, the one with the holographic projectors. It stressed the drive's containment field. We can probably manage 2 more short jumps before the whole system gives out. After that, we're stuck with standard FTL." Park took in the news, his face unreadable. 2 jumps? That's enough. We just need to stay alive long enough for the truth to sink in." 20 minutes later, a sleek Earth shuttle docked with the Cinder fate. President Sarah Mitchell herself stepped aboard, flanked by a security team and 3 advisors. She was a striking woman in her 60s, with silver hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She froze when she saw the Prometheus crew assembled. "My God," she breathed. "You're real." "We're real," Park confirmed. 200 years late, but we made it. Mitchell's gaze shifted to Marcus. "And you must be Marcus Chen, the salvage dealer. I saw the report. You bought this ship at an auction for 2,000 credits, Mitchell stated, showing she'd done her homework. "Mr. Chen, you seem to have triggered the biggest diplomatic crisis in galactic history." "I just opened a door," Marcus replied evenly. "They're the ones who built a house of lies behind it." Mitchell considered him for a long moment before nodding. "Fair point." She turned back to Park. "Commander, my government has begun reviewing your evidence. If it holds up, this changes everything. But we need time to verify it, to investigate. to present this to the international community in the right way. While you're investigating, Sarah cut in, those ships out there will be manufacturing their own evidence to discredit us. They'll create doubt. We handed you the truth. Now you have to act on it. President Mitchell's jaw tightened. It's not that simple. Earth has treaties with the Council, complex trade agreements, defense pacts. If we make an aggressive move, we could find ourselves completely isolated. Or worse, at war. You're already at war, Park said, his voice low and steady. You just didn't know you were fighting. For 200 years, the galaxy has been holding humanity down, stealing from you, treating you like a child. That doesn't just stop because we showed up. So what do you want from me? Mitchell demanded. To declare war on 4 of the most powerful species in the galaxy. No, Sarah said. We want you to demand justice. Demand reparations. Demand a complete renegotiation of Earth's place on the Council. And if they refuse, she gave a cold, sharp smile. We have something they want more than anything. Mitchell looked confused. What? James Chen stepped forward. Madam President, nearly every piece of advanced technology those aliens have developed for the last 2 centuries is based on stolen human designs. Technology they copied, but never truly understood. We, he said, gesturing to the Prometheus crew, are the descendants of the quantum fold engineers who invented it. We know how to make it work, and we also know how to make it stop working. The realization dawned on Mitchell's face, a look of pure astonishment. You can shut down their tech? Not all of it, James admitted, but enough to cripple them. Their so-called modified quantum drives, their neural interfaces, their advanced medical scanners. It's all based on a flawed understanding of our work. We built kill switches, degradation protocols, into everything they forced us to teach them. We can trigger those protocols from here. Mitchell struggled for the right word. That's a weapon. It's leverage, Park corrected. We're not here to start a war, Madam President. We're here to demand fairness, to get humanity a real seat at the galactic table. It's time they stopped treating us like children. Mitchell stood in stunned silence for a long moment. Finally, she found her voice. I have to take this to Earth's Parliament. This decision is far too big for one person to make. You have 6 hours, Park stated plainly. After that, we broadcast our second data package. The technical files. The schematics. Every species in the galaxy will know exactly what was stolen from us, and more importantly, how it really works. We're leveling the playing field, whether Earth joins us or not. Mitchell's eyes went wide. That would unleash chaos. Dozens of species would rush to reverse engineer the technology. It would lead to conflicts, possibly even wars. Then help us create order out of it, Sarah urged. Work with us. Show the galaxy a unified human front. Show them that humanity is done being pushed around. Mitchell looked from face to face, her mind racing. At last, she nodded. 6 hours. I will contact you with our decision. With that, she and her delegation departed. As soon as the shuttle was gone, Marcus sank into a nearby chair, letting out a long breath. Wow, that was intense. Park managed a slight smile. That was just politics. The real fight is still to come. He was right. 3 hours later, new contacts appeared on the sensors, jumping into the system. But these weren't Council ships. They were smaller, unmarked vessels, approaching fast from different directions. Mercenaries, Sarah announced, her fingers flying across her console. Someone's hired private contractors. They're probably hoping to take us out and make it look like a pirate attack. How many are there? Park asked. 12, all armed, and none of them are broadcasting IDS. A cold dread seized Marcus. Can we possibly fight 12 ships? We won't have to, James said over the intercom. Everyone get to the bridge, right now. I have an idea I want to show you. Once the crew was assembled, James laid out his desperate plan. The quantum drive is failing, but I think I can force one last massive energy fold. We won't go anywhere, but it will broadcast a powerful quantum field pulse. In plain English? Marcus asked. In plain English, James said. Every ship within 10 light-years that relies on quantum-based tech will experience total system failure. Sensors, weapons, shields, everything will go dark for about 30 minutes. That includes us, Sarah noted. Yes, it includes us, but we'll know it's coming. We can brace for it. They won't. A slow, dangerous grin spread across Park's face. Do it! James initiated the sequence. The Cinder Fate groaned and shuddered as raw energy poured into the damaged drive, then erupted outwards in an invisible, silent wave. All across the solar system, advanced ships blinked and died. The 12 mercenary vessels went dark, drifting aimlessly. The 37 Council warships suffered cascading system meltdowns. Even Earth's own defense satellites flickered and reset. For 30 minutes, every modern warship in the system was nothing more than a helpless, floating piece of metal. And in that moment, Earth fired its shot. President Mitchell's face materialized on every screen, but this time, her audience wasn't just one ship. It was the entire galaxy. This is President Sarah Mitchell of Earth. After reviewing the evidence from the survivors of the Prometheus, Earth formally charges the Thros Federation, the Velkari Trade Collective, the Kik Sovereignty, and the remnants of the Vin Empire with conspiracy, theft, and crimes against humanity. We demand reparations. We demand a complete reevaluation of our status on the Galactic Council. We demand full access to every piece of technology stolen from us. And we demand that all restrictions on human development be lifted, permanently. If these terms are not met within 30 days, Earth will withdraw from all galactic treaties and leak the complete technical blueprints for quantum fold technology to every single species in the galaxy. We are done being your footnote in history. We will not be held back, and we will never forget what you did to us. The broadcast ended, leaving a stunned silence on the bridge of the Cinder Fate. Then, a laugh broke the quiet. It was Sarah. She actually did it, Sarah gasped. The president just held a gun to the head of the entire galactic order. A wave of pure pride washed over Marcus. Humanity wasn't cowering anymore. For the first time, they were fighting back. The next 4 weeks were a blur of chaos. The Thros Federation cracked first, admitting some fault and offering a token payment. The Velkari Collective denied everything, but their ambassadors were suddenly very eager to negotiate new trade deals favoring Earth. The Kik Sovereignty said nothing at all, but their warships quietly vanished from human-controlled space. The Galactic Council scrambled into emergency sessions. The old alliances fractured as species started taking sides. Some backed Earth's bold play. Others were terrified of the consequences, but everyone knew the game had changed forever. The survivors of the Prometheus became living legends back home. Their stories were broadcast across the planet. Statues were erected. History books were rewritten overnight. When Marcus brought the Cinder Fate back into Earth's orbit, President Mitchell offered to buy it for a national museum. Marcus politely refused. This ship brought 73 souls home, he told her. She's earned the right to keep flying. Instead, Marcus and his crew turned the Cinder Fate into humanity's first ever quantum research vessel. James, Lisa, and Yuki rebuilt the drive from the ground up, the right way this time. Sarah put together a new science division. Park officially took command. And Marcus? He stayed on as the ship's owner, a simple junk hauler who'd bought a piece of history for 2,000 credits and accidentally reshaped the galaxy. On the day the Cinder Fate was set to leave on its first official mission, Marcus stood on the bridge with his crew, his family, a family of misfits from 2 different centuries who had become closer than blood. "Where to, Commander?" Marcus asked. Park just smiled. "Everywhere. We've got 200 years of lost time to catch up on, and a whole galaxy of questions that need answers." The Cinder Fate's quantum drive spooled up. The ship seemed to shatter into a million possibilities at once before snapping back into reality. light years from home. In their wake, Earth was growing stronger by the day. Humanity had finally been told the truth about its own past. And now, at long last, they were free to build their own future. Marcus thought back to that quiet, dusty auction house on Proxima Station. He was the only one there, the loneliest bidder in the galaxy. But he realized now he hadn't just bought a broken-down ship that day. He had bought a second chance for humanity. He had bought justice for generations of people who had been forgotten by the universe. And more than anything, he had bought them hope. The Cinder fate jumped again, dissolving into the shimmering quantum field, a ghost ship manned by ghosts from the past, sailing into a galaxy that would never, ever make the mistake of underestimating humanity again. Marcus Chen, salvage dealer turned savior, couldn't help but smile as the stars blurred into streaks of light. Best 2,000 credits he'd ever spent.